CFR 369 Live, the Cry Freedom Show with Lisa.com. Okay, so I'm going to start this soundbite off by just reading something that I posted as my cover picture on Facebook the other day. So here goes. For those still not getting what Sunday's test alert was all about, please share to those who need to know this. It's all about power and control, and the need for people to see what is happening in front of them, and that governments are here for anyone but us. They are here to control in every way. The last 3 years has shown that in plain view for those willing to look and see. It all comes down to choices, which is why everyone should be using cash and not devices to pay for what they buy. If they get to take cash away, it will then come to total surveillance control. And so again, Sunday was all about seeing how many are happy to submit to this control unquestioningly by leaving their phones on, and how many are not by switching them off. The whole allegory on the BBC quote-unquote news about the test system failing was all about the system failures, i.e. those of us who can see what is going on and choose to opt out. Because we are the system failures, and proud to be so, and there are far, far more of us than mainstream will ever admit to. I highly recommend that people watch the current mainstream drama series Rabbit Hole with Kiefer Sutherland, which tells you all you need to know about how this world really works. And this is what all people need to face in order to create a better one.
I believe money is a tool human beings can use to positively influence their own destiny. Unfortunately, though, there seems to have never been a time in history where individuals have had so little power or control over their money. Central banks, government regulations, and a bloated financial system means that most people exist in a system that's not controlled by them, a system they have almost no power to change or influence. A system that seems to forever favor those at the top. But what if this was about to get even worse? And what if you were about to lose the final piece of control you have over your own money? There is something coming to your country very soon, and it seems to be the biggest change we are going to see in how we use our own money. It is a new technology that seems to be just a few years away at best, and it seems that not that many people know about it. It's something that would give your government powers over your own money that have never existed in history before. The thing I'm going to be talking about is CBDCs, and why I believe that this is a tool that is not really going to be helpful for the majority of humanity. And at the end, I am going to share with you how you can protect yourself from what is coming. So let's go for a ride and explore this potentially terrifying future that maybe you and I could stop. Before I get any further, we have an incredible newsletter that people just love. That's an extra way for us to reach you. So if you'd like to find out more, there's a link in the bio. About Canada. Before I talk about the future, I want to talk about what is happening in our world right now, and it illustrates my worries of what could be happening to our money very soon. Recently, you might have heard about the large-scale protests that are happening in Canada. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the protests and whether or not I believe in the stance of the protesters or not. I do think that this is something that you can research in your own time. But I am going to talk about how the government has used financial restrictions in order to try to stop and control these protests. During the protests, tens of thousands of people and vehicles clogged up Canada's cities, but mostly in the nation's capital of Ottawa. People living in these cities complained about how their businesses and lives were being disrupted by noise and blockages, and they wanted their government to intervene. So the Canadian government first started with threats and then arrests in an effort to end the protests. Nothing seemed to be working though, so after a while, the Canadian government pulled out the big guns and took people's ability away to survive. First, Canada froze access to millions of dollars in donations that were being sent to the protesters from around the world. And although many donations were coming from abroad, more than 50% of these donations were coming from other Canadians proving that protesters had a lot of support from inside their own country. But when that didn't work, the government started to take even more drastic measures. And after implementing emergency laws, they began freezing the bank accounts of people involved in the protests. And this started to work, because one of the easiest ways to stop a human in their tracks is to take away their ability to survive. The protests in Canada, they are not over, but the government's financial restrictions has lowered the amount of people that are able to attend these protests. Now, you could argue that the government has every right to punish these protesters because they were disrupting other people's lives, but at the same time, the government was disrupting the lives of the protesters, which is why they were protesting in the first place, so who's right? It is not my place to say, but I do believe that both sides of the story should have an equal right to be heard. But here is where the big problem lies for me. In this disagreement, there was only one party that was able to restrict finances of the other. It is not the everyday people that have the ability to immediately restrict the government's money. Now, this is a serious imbalance of power. And this is something that gives the governments a huge leg up when it comes to disagreements with their people. And this is where the focus of this video comes in, which is CBDCs, and why I believe this is going to cause a greater imbalance of power, and why this is coming to your country very soon. About CBDCs. This guy's name is Rishi Sunak. Now, he has a very fancy government title in the United Kingdom. However, to us everyday folk, he is the country's chief financial minister. And recently, he unveiled his proposal of G7 nations to implement what they call central bank digital currencies, what I've referred to in this video so far as CBDCs. CBDCs are digital currencies, just like the cryptocurrencies many of us already use today. Coins like Bitcoin, Ether, Doge. CBDCs would work the same way that crypto does, in that they would be a total digital form of money. And in short, they have the potential to change our financial system forever. One of the favorite things that people love about cryptocurrencies is that it is decentralized. It is the power in people's hands because they choose how they save it, use it, trade it. But with CBDCs, it wouldn't be the same. Just like the way your government controls your country's money and is responsible for creating and managing it, they would also control and issue a CBDC. So unlike a crypto, a CBDC wouldn't be decentralized. It would be centrally controlled, organized and regulated by your government, just like any other type of money. So basically, the CBDC would take the biggest positive of crypto and it would get rid of it. And so the control would no longer be in people's hands. It would be given back to the governments, where they would regulate it and also be under the influence of some of the most powerful people and corporations in the world. It would no longer be decentralized, and it would no longer be a tool of the people. And I would argue that I don't think we need any more people governing our destinies or our money. But the thing is, this isn't even the worst thing about CBDCs, which I'll talk about in a minute. But first, I want to talk about how close we may be to this becoming a reality in our world now. Most people haven't heard about CBDCs yet, but chances are they're coming to your country very soon. The image on your screen shows all the countries that are currently testing a CBDC or who have already started implementing them. Already, it's a lot. And the number of countries is growing fast. Now, when Rishi Sunak announced his proposal to create CBDCs in countries such as the UK, US, Germany, and other, he used really beautiful words to describe this new tool. Words like safety, security, and inclusion. Words that make you really think that you should welcome CBDCs with open arms. But there is a word that's often linked to CBDCs that not that many people seem to want to talk about, and it's a word that would grant governments permission to do things with money they've previously not been able to do, and that word is programmable. A CBDC would be programmable, meaning that just like a piece of software, the government would be able to put restrictions on it with digital rules. And this would give them an immense amount of financial power over you. Power that I will say is a little bit terrifying. So let me show you how this could potentially play out and provide you with a few hypothetical examples to illustrate my point. In times of economic hardship, your government doesn't want you to save money. They want you to spend it. Because when you spend money, it stimulates the economy. It makes money flow. So what if they could force you to spend your money? Well, With a CBDC, that would be possible. Your government could program your money to expire, meaning you would have a time limit to spend it. If it's not spent within a given time frame, for example, within 30 days, the money in your account would just disappear. Obviously, you wouldn't want your money to expire, so because of this expiration date, you'd go out and spend it instead. Basically, you'd be forced to take the action your government wants you to take. With a CBDC, it doesn't matter if you want to save your money or not, because that decision would soon be in the hands of your government. The idea of expiring money isn't actually hypothetical. Just last month in China, they rolled out their own form of digital currency and they have been testing the expiration of money. But if that is not already concerning enough, what if your government wanted to control the types of things you buy? Well, with a CBDC, that is possible. We all know the world is currently obsessed with carbon emissions. And of course, it's great that we should care about our environment. Well, very soon, personal carbon allowances are likely to become a thing in much of the West, meaning that just like big companies, individual people will be limited to an amount of carbon they'll be allowed to put out every month. With a CBDC, a government could program your money so you can't buy fuel or plane tickets or even non-green foods and groceries once you hit your monthly carbon limit. Basically, your government will be able to completely control the things you can or cannot buy by programming your money. Apart from carbon, I'm sure your government would have a whole bunch of reasons as to how and why they would be able to control your spending habits. For me though, I honestly would prefer in a world where I get to choose what it is that I can and cannot buy and when I choose to do so. I don't need some government body looking over my shoulder, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of you that would probably agree with this. But there is one last example I want to share on how CBDCs could be used in order to restrict your personal freedoms. As I just mentioned, China is one of the world's leaders in creating digital currency, but they're also a world leader in censorship and punishing their citizens for stepping outside the lines. In China, saying negative things about the government or taking part in protests can already result in a citizen's right being taken away. And the Chinese government already blocks some of these people from being able to buy train tickets, plane tickets, or even being able to get a passport. I believe being able to travel or get a passport are basic human rights. But with a CBDC, your government would have the power to restrict you from these things, just like is happening in China today. There are plenty more examples I could give you, but hopefully these points are already illustrating what is possible and how CBDCs could be used in order for governments to control your money, your life. Now, in the two examples I've referenced, I have been talking about China, and I'm sure a few of you are thinking, well, that's China, it's not going to happen here. Of course, I'm not going to have such financial restrictions at my doorstep. Well, maybe think again. In Canada, this guy has already spoken out about removing travel privileges and driver's licenses from people who take part in protests. And he's already limiting people from being able to access their own money. People who are disagreeing with their government. Not only that, but just a few years ago, he also said that he admires China's dictatorship. And no, I'm not making that part up. So if this stuff is already happening in the West, how much longer until it gets worse? How much longer until countries such as Canada or perhaps US, UK start using CBDCs in order to restrict people's financial freedoms? Or taking away your access to your own money because you disagree with your government? I think something that a lot of us often disagree with. And what about them restricting your ability to buy whatever that you choose to buy? I suppose only time will tell, but if this doesn't really sound like a fun future that you'd like to participate in, there could be a solution. So let's talk about that. Before we get any further, if you think that this is important and more people should know about it, like, comment, share it around with people so we get more people talking about this very important issue. Look, it is very possible that CBDCs could be used as a tool for good, and it could help us make our lives with money just a little bit easier. And there is the argument that is being used that CBDCs could help to eliminate the illegal activity that is happening within the land of cryptocurrencies. But by one way of looking at it, crypto is used by criminals far less than normal money is today. So the argument that crypto is only for shady business may not exactly be true. We already have digital currencies that that allow us to use and store our own money. And the best part about them is that it's decentralized, meaning that the power is in our own hands and we get to decide what we do with our own money rather than having some government tell us how we can use our own money. So it seems that we already have a solution for a secure, safe and inclusive way of using money today, something that basically all of us can have access to right now. So when I think about it this way, I can't help but to think that the only reason why governments want to have CBDCs is so that they could have extra power and control over our money and our lives, and potentially to shape our future the way that they'd want to shape our future. So to me, there is one very simple solution. When inevitably the CBDCs come to your country and the government starts promoting it as a beautiful tool that we should all use, just don't. Quite simply, just refuse to use it and concentrate on ways that are already existing on how to store and use your own money. Use cash or existing forms of electronic banking, or maybe also explore the possibilities of crypto so more people adopt this. In short, vote with your wallet. Vote with the kind of money that still allows you to have the power in your own hands, instead of handing over the power to people, organizations, corporations that already have enough. Sometimes I know it can feel like we don't have any power of our own futures, and it feels like we're stuck in a system where we have zero control over the outcome. However, I do believe that when we come together, we have so much more power than they lead us to believe. So use that power and make decisions in your daily life that will guide us towards that beautiful future that we all deserve. A future that benefits us, not one that benefits them. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, we have an amazing newsletter that people literally love so much, so you have to check it out. There's a link in the bio. And also don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one.
Please note, the news clips in this video are dramatizations using an actor.
The UK government will soon be introducing fundamental changes in how money works. The changes are being planned by central banks around the world, including the UK's central bank, the Bank of England. These changes, once introduced, will affect everyone.
So, what are these changes really about? The changes being proposed will mean that you will no longer have full control over your spending. In fact, what they are planning is the replacement of money with something which is fundamentally different. Therefore, it's not just cash they want to remove from the economy, it is money itself. Pay attention, because if the new monetary system is allowed to happen, it will be very difficult to reverse, and could mark the beginning of the end of human freedom. In order to explain the changes that are being planned right now for your tomorrow, let's explain a little bit about how your money works today. Let's imagine that John decides to buy his daughter a birthday present from Argos. He chooses the product he wants, then pays £50 using his debit card. You might think that £50 is immediately transferred from John's bank account to Argos's bank account. But this is not what happens. A record is created showing that John's bank owes Argos's bank £50, and John's account will even show that the money has left his account, but the actual transfer of funds does not occur at the time of purchase. John's £50 purchase is one of about 50 million UK transactions that occur every day, and although in each case the account may show that the money has been transferred, the actual movement of funds between the banks only occurs once every day. Every 24 hours, all the payments made to and from each of the UK's 300 plus registered banks are added up to determine how much each bank owes the others. The Bank of England, which is the central bank that all other banks in the system are connected with, derives the total amount that each bank owes and is owed for that day. The Bank of England then intermediates and exchanges funds between all the other banks. So the Bank of England does not know anything about John or the £50 he spent on his daughter. John's money is just a tiny part of a huge transfer of funds. This means that the only organisation that can see what John does with his money is his own bank. The central bank cannot see what John spends his money on or when he spends it, and John's bank is under an obligation not to share details of his spending with anyone. This means that, rightly, there is a good degree of anonymity and privacy over what John decides to spend his money on. This, in turn, means that a government or central authority, such as the Bank of England, cannot directly restrict John when he uses his debit card, because it has no visibility of what John is doing with his money. If John had paid for the present with £50 of cash, then the purchase would be completely anonymous. Nobody, including John's bank, would know what he had spent his money on. So cash transactions are truly anonymous, and debit card transactions have a high degree of anonymity because only your bank can know about them. So what is this new system? The name of the new system is called Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. It sometimes has other names, such as smart money. Here's how it works. Let's imagine that John, again, decides to buy his daughter a birthday present from Argos. His mobile phone has a smart money wallet or app on it, from which he pays £50 for the product. The app communicates directly with the central bank, the Bank of England, and the money is transferred from his digital wallet to Argos's digital wallet in less than a second. The transfer of funds occurs at the time of purchase, and the transaction is recorded and approved by a centralized computer system on a centralized blockchain. A blockchain is a special computer program that records information very reliably and cannot be amended. The centralized computer system runs continuously and can deal with hundreds of transactions per second as they occur throughout the entire economy, processing all of the public's purchases being made by millions of digital wallets. This sounds fantastic and is so much quicker and simpler than the old system. But there is a fundamental difference, which is that all transactions are centralized in real time as they happen. In other words, one system will be able to know about every single digital transaction in the economy as the transactions occur. This is the critical difference with the new digital monetary system that everyone needs to be aware of. All transactions are centralized in real time as they happen. The people who are planning this new system have made it clear that it would be useful, in their eyes, to use artificial intelligence algorithms in real time to block certain public transactions for a range of different reasons. So, what does this mean for John? Let's just say there is another lockdown and the government want to stop the public moving about the country. With this new system, they could introduce a simple change. That would mean John's wallet would only work if he was located within a certain distance of his own home. Argos is 2 miles from John's house, and he decides to go and buy his daughter a birthday present. He attempts to pay £50 for the product with the app. The app communicates directly with the Bank of England's computer system, and the system rejects John's payment before it is made, because the system knows that John is 2 miles from his own home, and John's wallet has been limited to spending within just 1 mile. John cannot now buy anything unless he moves closer to his own home. His money is now useless if he wants to go anywhere. Why doesn't John just use cash? That would be a good solution for John as long as cash is still in use. So, how might this new system be introduced?
The Prime Minister called an emergency meeting today to discuss the unprecedented slide into economic recession in the UK and global economies. Inflation is out of control, and high interest rates are causing thousands of house repossessions. All cash points and over-the-counter cash services are now frozen, and millions of people face losing their life savings as a number of high street banks are declared insolvent. The government and the Bank of England are accelerating the introduction of a new central bank digital currency, which all bank customers in the UK will be able to receive in exchange for their existing money, which in many cases is now unobtainable from their bank accounts. The government say that the new digital money will help the economy recover from recession and will be used to bail out public and corporate money currently held in millions of bank accounts by banks that are at the point of collapse.
It says cash unobtainable from this account. It's frozen our money.
Bleeding hell, John. How much have we got in the house?
We've only got £120 and when that's gone, nothing.
I don't believe it. The bank's frozen our money.
We've got £25,000 in that account and no way of getting it back.
Download your central bank CBDC wallet app today and get bonus digital pounds free. If you exchange your existing bank funds into your digital currency wallet now, you will receive free digital pounds for each account you exchange. You can then spend from your digital wallet by using your phone app, exactly like a debit card. Download the free app now from the UK government website or the App Store.
John, we need to download the digital wallet thing. See if we can transfer it in.
We've got no other option, love. Wow, it's transferred and it's given us some bonus money. I can't believe it.
How do you know it's worked?
It's worked, love. Everyone's using this money now. Right, I'm off down Tesco to try it out. Sorted.
Recent figures show that the public's use of cash has halved in the last 12 months. Experts say this is due to the success and sheer convenience of the new CBDC digital money. The government has announced that all cash will be phased out completely over the next 3 years.
I can't remember the last time I used cash. It seems so cumbersome and old-fashioned, fiddling about with coins every time you want to buy something. It's much easier now. Have you seen the remote control, love? Look what I found. Remember these?
What are you going to do with that?
Well, I don't know.
Look, why don't we keep it? I'll put it in a picture frame.
My name's Charlie.
Recent data from the annual Climate Change Conference has revealed that only a drastic reduction in fossil fuel use will help protect against climate change. The government has announced limits on petrol and diesel use for all individuals in the UK, which will be enforced using smart money. Each wallet will be limited to a purchase of 15 litres per week, after which the wallet will be prevented from making any further purchases in that week.
Ah, bollocks.
Growing concerns over obesity and bad health will be tackled using the Smart Money Network. The government proposes to limit the total number of sugary foods that each digital wallet can purchase in any given month.
What?
Experts say that the new pandemic, which is 10 times more contagious and deadly than coronavirus, can only be defeated by minimising all human contact and staying home as much as possible. In order to enforce this, all digital wallets will only work within 1 mile of the address at which they are registered. Shopping times will be staggered so that you can only make purchases for a 2-hour period each day. All non-essential item purchases will be rejected.
Jesus Christ.
The government, in a move to stimulate growth in the economy, is trying to ensure that all benefit money paid out to the public is spent within an appropriate time period. From the 1st of August, all benefit payments, including the new social credits, should be spent within 2 months of receiving them. Benefit money will expire and be of no use if it is not spent within the 2-month period.
Blimey, they're putting a shelf life on money.
Vaccination uptake for the latest pandemic is now at 95%, Anyone who has not been vaccinated will have restrictions placed on their wallets. For the 5% unvaccinated, spending will only be allowed at certain times and within 1 mile of home. Certain goods, such as alcohol, travel tickets and restaurant purchases, will not be available for those who have not been vaccinated, and their digital wallets will not work outside of the UK.
Wow.
Concerns are growing over people who grow and supply their own food outside of government-approved companies. The government will be restricting the purchase of all seeds and other farming products for anyone that is not a registered farmer.
What are they doing that for?
The government is trying to reduce the amount of red meat people eat in their diet for environmental and health reasons. Digital wallets will only be allowed to purchase 8 ounces of red meat per week.
How much is 8 ounces?
In order to protect the environment, the government is introducing limitations on the amount each wallet will be able to spend on the following products: aerosol cans, single-use plastics, coal, meat, chocolate, fish and coffee.
What about fags?
In a move to encourage good behaviour, the government is awarding digital currency direct to your wallet if you report on anyone breaking lockdown rules or report on individuals expressing extremist views. Anyone deemed to be expressing extremist views may in turn have restrictions placed on their wallets.
What's that mean, extremist views?
If you give up your cash, you will give up freedom for yourself, and you will give up the freedom of generations to come. It's not the convenience of the new money that is important. What is important is the fact that centralized administration of smart money could be used to control every aspect of your life. Say yes to keeping cash and say no to centrally controlled smart money. What they are going to propose is not money, it is a social control system. Please spread this message.